Welcome to my channel. Here I share my learnings and views on Agile, innovation, technology, and leadership in general.
In today's chat between Mike and Sarah, you will learn about prioritization, why we should prioritize, what are some of the widely used prioritization techniques, and an overview of a few.
Mike, I noticed that we have a lot of items on our backlog. Could you explain to me how we prioritize the items on it?
Sure, Sarah. In Agile ways of working, the backlog is a prioritized list of work that needs to be done. Prioritizing the backlog is important because it helps our teams focus on the most important work first and ensures that we're always working on items that will have the greatest impact on the product or customers or our division or business.
That makes sense. What are some of the benefits of prioritizing the backlog?
Well, for one, it allows us to focus on the most important work first. This helps ensure that the product stays on track and that we're working on items that will have the greatest impact on its success. It also helps us make trade-offs between competing priorities. Sometimes, there may be multiple important items on the backlog, and prioritization helps us decide which one to work on first.
And what about changing requirements? How does backlog prioritization help with that?
Good question. In Agile ways of working, we intend to accommodate changing requirements in a pragmatic manner. And prioritization helps us respond to these changes quickly and efficiently. It also helps maintain transparency and clarity of the objectives so that stakeholders have a shared understanding of what is being done and why.
I see. So, who is involved in the backlog prioritization process?
It is important to involve all stakeholders, including the team, product owners, and business stakeholders, in the prioritization process to ensure that everyone's priorities are taken into account.
So, how do you actually go about prioritizing the backlog?
There are a few different techniques that teams can use to prioritize their backlogs. One common technique is called Moscow. This method involves categorizing items in the backlog as either must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, or won't-haves, based on their relative importance.
Okay, that's helpful. Are there any other techniques?
Yes, there are a few others. Another common technique is called Kano analysis, which is a way of prioritizing based on customer needs and satisfaction. With Kano analysis, you identify the features or requirements that will have the most impact on customer satisfaction and prioritize those first. The Kano model is based on the idea that not all customer requirements are created equal, and that there are different types of requirements that have different effects on customer satisfaction. It was developed by Dr. Noriaki Kano in the 1980s and consists of three main categories of customer requirements. Number 1, must-haves. These are the basic requirements that customers expect a product or service to have. If these requirements are not met, customers will be dissatisfied. Number 2, performance attributes. These are the requirements that customers use to evaluate a product or service. The better the performance of these attributes, the more satisfied customers will be. And number 3, delighters. These are the requirements that customers did not know they wanted, but once they have them, they are delighted. These requirements can give a company a competitive advantage.
I see. And therefore, this model can be used to identify the requirements that are most important to customers and to prioritize the development of new features or improvements to existing products and services. And as I understand, the Kano model has been widely used in many industries. It is because it can help companies to understand and meet the needs of their customers, improve their products and services, and ultimately increase customer satisfaction and loyalty.
That's absolutely correct, Sarah.
Interesting. And are there any other techniques you would recommend?
Another technique that can be helpful is called WSJF, which stands for Weighted Shortest Job First. With WSJF, you prioritize items in the backlog based on their relative value and the cost of delay. This can help you prioritize items that will have the most impact and deliver the most value in the shortest amount of time. There's also a technique called buy a feature. This involves giving stakeholders a set amount of money to buy features that they think are most important. The features are then prioritized based on the amount of money spent on them. I can mention another technique called value versus complexity. This technique helps to prioritize features based on their value to the customer versus their complexity to implement. It ensures that features that deliver the most value are prioritized first, while also taking into account the level of effort required to implement them. There are other different techniques as well, like using RICE, which is a method of scoring each item in backlog based on their reach, impact, confidence, and effort. Prioritizing the ones which will have most reach and impact, and in which team have most confidence on completing it, with least effort.
Would you mind giving me an overview of RICE model now, please?
Sure, Sarah. The RICE model is a framework for prioritizing work items based on their expected impact, ease of implementation, and confidence in the expected outcome.
I know about this acronym. RICE stands for R for reach, the number of people or systems that will be impacted by the work item. I for impact, the potential benefit or value that the work item will deliver. C for confidence, the likelihood that the work item will be successful and deliver the expected benefits. And finally, E for effort, the amount of work required to implement the feature.
You know it. This model helps teams to prioritize work items by taking into account multiple factors rather than just focusing on one metric, such as the expected benefit or the amount of work required. This allows teams to balance the trade-offs between different types of work items and make more informed decisions about which work items to prioritize. Overall, the RICE model is a simple and effective way to prioritize work items based on their expected impact, ease of implementation, and confidence in the expected outcome. It is particularly useful in situations where there are many competing priorities and limited resources available.
I heard you mention something called WSJF. Can you explain what that is?
Actually, this deserves a long conversation. And I need to walk down to the other end of the building for my next meeting. Would you mind we talking about this next time, please?
Yes, sure, Mike. That's perfect. And thank you for spending time today to provide an overview of different backlog prioritization techniques.
My pleasure, Sarah.
If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button now. And share your views and suggestions so that we can do a better job next time. Thank you.